What if the most dangerous thing the enemies of an idea do is not to kill its originator, but to distort his image? What if the first battle in Islam was not Badr, but madman? Why did God choose for the confrontation to begin with the pen, not with force? I'm Muhammad, and this is Hamza Podcast. Al-Wahidi mentioned in the Reasons for Revelation that Quraysh said about the Prophet, peace be upon him, that he was mad. So the verse was revealed, by the grace of your Lord, you are not mad. And here comes the more critical question. Why does the response begin with none by the pen and what they write? God did not start by denying the accusation, but began with an oath by the pen. Here, a very profound perspective is revealed by Abdul Rahman Habanaka al-Maidani when he says, the pen is the symbol, the intellectual authority, meaning that the struggle would not be only about the person of the Prophet, peace be upon him, but about the very source of knowledge itself. Who has the authority to define reason? Who decides who is insane? When standards become distorted, what is constant appears deviant, and the rational person is accused of madness. Surah Al-Qalam resets the standard from the heavens. By the grace of your Lord, you are not mad, and indeed you will have a reward that will never end. And indeed you are of a great moral character. Notice the progression. Denial of madness, a promise of reward, a moral testimony, exposing the flaws of the opponent, and a directive to be patient. This is an order of nurturing, not just a rebuttal, and Sayyid Qutb, the author of In the Shade of the Qur'an, sees that the surah does not discuss the accusation, but rather goes beyond it to establish internal certainty. It does not say, don't believe them, but rather it says, your standard is with God. And here is a subtle point by Dr. Muhammad al-Nubani. He says that Surah Al-Qalam builds the faith-based nervous system, meaning that the Qur'an does not change reality, but rather it changes your response to reality. He points out that the attack in Mecca was intellectual and psychological, so the remedy was a deeply psychological Quranic one. According to this perspective, my dear, Surah Al-Qalam builds a personality that does not waver in the face of provocation. And here comes the pivotal verse, and indeed you are of a great moral character, a testimony from the heavens. And in the hadith of Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, she said, his character was the Qur'an. But pay attention, Allah did not say you possess great character, but rather you are upon great character. Sayyid Qutb sees that the word upon indicates elevation and steadfastness, as if morals are a platform upon which the Prophet stands, not just fleeting traits. And Hanka points out that this is a methodological affirmation. If a trait is distorted, the reference is the scale of Allah, not the tongues of people. When media campaigns intensify, you do not need quick responses, but rather you need steadfast moral endurance. Verses 10 to 16 describe a human model, a slanderer, a gossip monger, one who prevents good, a transgressor, a sinner. Ibn Kathir and Al-Tabari mentioned that these verses were revealed about Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira. They do not describe his political power, but rather analyze his psychological character. The author of In the Shade of the Qur'an calls these the features of internal deviation before external explosion. He sees that this is not just about one person, but rather a recurring pattern throughout history. Notice the psychological sequence. It starts with the tongue, slander, then the destruction of relationships, gossip, then preventing good, then aggression, then arrogance. Deviation happens gradually. A tyrant is not born all at once. Surah Al-Qalam reveals the psychological structure of tyranny before it becomes institutionalized politically. The people of the garden. Indeed, we have tested them as we tested the owners of the garden. Ibn Kathir says it is a parable for Quraysh. And Al-Tabari says it is a true story that God presented as a lesson. Notice, it seems like an economic story, but it is actually very profound. They did not say, we will not believe. Rather, they said, we will not give to the poor. And here, Habnaka's analysis stands out. Excluding God from wealth immediately removes its blessing. And Al-Nubani says that collective corruption begins with a small shared justification, then it turns into a collective decision without any conscience oversight. So, what was the result, my dear? So, a calamity from your Lord swept over it while they were asleep. The burning happened while they were asleep. Major collapses do not always come with noise. And the problem was not just in the action itself, but rather in feeling secure from divine oversight. So be patient with your Lord's decree, and do not be like the companion of the whale. Yunus did not abandon his mission out of disbelief, but rather he hastened it out of personal judgment. Ibn Kathir mentioned that his departure before being permitted was not an act of rebellion, rather it was a departure out of distress. But he acted on his own reasoning outside the timing of revelation. So the result was, the whale swallowed him while he was blameworthy. The swallowing was not the end of a prophet, but a reset for a prophet in the darkness. Balance was restored. Indeed, I was among the wrongdoers. And when he returned to complete submission, all his people believed. As Ibn Kathir mentioned in his interpretation of the verse, so they believed and we allowed them to enjoy life for a while. So, my dear, the message to the Prophet, peace be upon him, in Surah Al-Qalam was clear. Under the pressure of distortion, do not act out of emotion, but act according to revelation. The mind is a blessing, but when it becomes disconnected from revelation, it chooses the wrong timing. And when it returns to complete submission, the outcomes change. My dear, Surah Al-Qalam tells you, if they attack you, do not be shaken. If they provoke you, do not be hasty. If they distort your image, do not compromise. The battle is not in the streets. The battle is within your nerves. And what strengthens your nerves is the Qur'an. Peace.